I want to thank you all so much for being here on this show, which is Community Conversations, a call to action. Everyone, my name is J.R. Baker-Flowers, and I am really excited for this show today, especially because it's Juneteenth. And so I could not think of a better way to honor our ancestors and also honor those of us that are here right now than having a show that is specifically devoted to the topic of Black gun ownership. I think especially being in the wake of everything that has happened over the last several weeks, specifically to our community members, our Black men and Black women. I know for me personally, I have been in a lot of conversations, those with my family, extended family, friends, colleagues, and everybody in between about this heightened sense of fear and paranoia and also anxiety, which is rightfully so. And I know that Black people are scared, but more than that, Black people want to be able to protect themselves. And so I have all of you here today, and I'm very grateful to you all for your time and commitment for being here. So I will go ahead and conduct some introductions now. And for those of you who are listening, if you can place any questions that you have into the chat, that way I'll be able to ask them to all of our amazing panelists here, okay? So once again, thank you all for being here. I have with me Dr. Frederick Thrasher, who is the instructor of Survival Sisters. Thank you. I also have Mr. Colin Mapp, who is a part of the Bass Reeves Gun Club here in Metro Atlanta. Hi, Mr. Mapp. And I also have Miss Cassandra Light, who is the vice president of NAGA, which is the National African American Gun Association. And you all are located in Griffin, Georgia, right, Ms. Light?
We're based in Atlanta.
Based in Atlanta, okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Dexter Porter. And if I'm not mistaken, you go by Mr. Tactical Snowflake.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you please share really quickly where that name comes from?
I love telling this story.
Okay, awesome. Let's open it up with a story.
I love telling stories, true stories.
Okay.
I go into Raymond Reddington mode. All right, so I'm at the governor's gun range a few years ago, and I have my Obama shirt on. Mm-hmm. And I deliberately do stuff like that. I won't get into why I do it, but I just do it because I like to be a smart ass sometimes. Okay. So this particular gun range, you can have some conservative gun owners that go, and for the most part, you don't run into anyone that bothers you. But on this particular day, I got into a discussion with a more right-wing gun owner, and we were bantering back and forth. And so he decided to call me a snowflake. And so I said, you know what? I'll embrace that. So a couple weeks later, I run into the same guy, and I've got a shirt on. And on the front of the shirt, I had this Velcro patch. And I run into him again. And he says, oh, there's that snowflake. I walk over to him. I said, no, that's Mr. Tactical Snowflake. And I've got it right printed on the front of on the shirt in Velcro for him. And he said, excuse me? I said, Mr. You know, like Call Me Mr. Tibbs? You seen that movie? I said, Mr. And he had a good chuckle about it. Actually, I would say we're friends, but we speak and we have good conversations. I've actually beaten him a couple rounds at the range every now and then. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of learned to respect each other's opinions. But that's kind of where that name has evolved from. And it's taken hold actually on Instagram, and people seem to like it and gravitate towards it.
Everything happens for a reason, right?
Everything, yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us about how you got your name, which I love.
And also too,
go ahead.
Mr. Mapp is the president.
The president
of National African American.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, I'll put a correction on both of it. So, so the National African American Gun Association is the national organization. It was founded by Philip Smith in 2015, and Cassandra and I are president and vice president of the founding chapter. So we are the founding chapter of NAGA. And I think that's where some of the confusion sometimes comes in.
Gotcha.
We are the Bass Reeves Gun Club. We're the Metro Atlanta chapter of NAGA, and I am the president of that chapter, and Cassandra is the vice president of the chapter. And Dexter is also one of our esteemed members, who really does a great job of, making sure we understand what the political climate is, and using relationships that we have in our chapter to to just leverage those relationships so our voices can be heard.
Thank you so much. Thank you for clearing it up for me. And apologies for missing that earlier.
Oh, not a problem.
Okay, so let's get into this really important conversation. So just to reiterate again, over the last few weeks, we've lost a lot of our community members due to white supremacy, hatred, ignorance, intolerance, racism, and specifically through police brutality and some white folks who want to be police officers, right? And so, again, my observations and what I have felt in the air, which is very palpable, is this heightened sense of fear and concern and anxiety and worry among Black Americans in terms of just being able to protect themselves, protect their family, protect their land, their homes, right? And there's also this fear of even leaving their homes, for fear that they're going to be harmed, they're going to be attacked. And so I've had a lot of conversations with some people, even in my own family, about wanting to own a gun. I know, Mr. Matt, before we got started, you were talking about a surge in membership that has taken place just within the last week or so, or a few weeks. I'm not sure if that's correct. And in some of the articles that I've been reading over the last week, the data has really shown that membership to Black gun owner groups has spiked after Trump was sworn in office. And that makes a lot of sense that, the two will be correlated together. So can you talk about the surge in membership to your organization that has taken place, and what you have seen in those members who have wanted to join or who have joined, and what have been their reasonings for joining?
Right. So just to put a backdrop on that, so the mission of the National African American Gun Association is to establish a fellowship by educating on the rich legacy of gun ownership by African Americans. We also offer training that supports safe gun use for self-defense and also sportsmanship. And we also advocate for the inalienable right of self-defense for African Americans. So our mission is to educate, train, ensure that our community is handling firearms in a safe manner, and also making sure that we're proficient with these tools so that we can defend ourselves if we have to, right? And historically, we've had to. So if you look back to the Jim Crow era, post-Reconstruction, we're looking at the gun was always used, not always, it was used for putting food on the table, but it was also used for protecting our property, from night riders and those who wanted to see our existence wiped out, right? So it's always had a prominent place in our culture, but we've, digressed from understanding that. So that's where I think the fear that you talk about comes from, right? People fear what they don't understand. So if they don't understand how to own a firearm and their rights to ownership, then there is a natural fear because now they're going out unprotected. But once you understand that this is a human right, and it's also a right that's granted also by the Constitution, and you take ownership of it, then the fear goes away, right? Because now you understand that you have a right to protect and defend yourself and your family. So that's why I think this conversation is very, very important. So anytime we speak to interviews, we are in interviews, they always talk about Trump, and I don't think he can get all the credit. He can get some of the credit, but we've been doing this since 2015. It started with 5 members in Stoddard's Range and Guns here in Midtown. We just had a meeting that had 125 people in it. We have 450 members in the Metro Atlanta area. That's not due to Trump. I think that's more due to our efforts in the National African American Gun Association and other gun clubs and gun organizations in promoting our right to self-defense. We've promoted it, we've educated on it, so people come and they want to form a community and a fellowship. Now, Trump is in the office. Yes, there has been a spike with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, the murder of George Floyd, the civil unrest. Now folks are awakening. I call it an awakening to see that there is a choice. You don't have to be on your knees, but you can stand on your feet, right? And so we have a place for them to land when they want to learn how to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Was there, and this question is for any of you panelists, but was there a particular or specific event that sort of led you to being in this space of being a Black gun owner and having, I guess I would say, like such a drive for it, such a passion for it, and wanting to be a leader in this space? Was there any particular personal event or anything that sparked or ignited this interest in you, or has it always been a part of your life?
Well, this is Dexter. For me, I come from a family. I'm a Southern guy, so like most Southerners, I own a gun. I come from a hunting family. Both sets of my family are from rural parts of Georgia. I didn't see myself joining the NRA. I didn't think the NRA spoke to who I was, who I am as an African-American man, and as an African-American. I don't think it speaks to the unique needs of the African-American gun owner. So when I first heard about NAGA, I jumped at the opportunity to become a member, even volunteered doing some writing every now and then when I had an opportunity. And I never looked back. I dived in whenever there's an opportunity to volunteer. I love it. I think this is a great organization if you're a beginner or if you're an advanced. This is a great organization for you. But you've got a lot of members who come in. They may not purchase a gun initially. They just may want to get some of the fundamentals down. For example, my gun safety, education, just the basics, and then graduate into, okay, now I'm ready to purchase a gun. Because some people have to be kind of held by the hand and weaned into the movement, okay? Because there may be, for example, and I'm not going to get long-winded because I want to give Cassandra a minute to talk about this, because I'm going to go segue into, for example, the Women's Auxiliary of NAGA.
Right.
There are women, for example, that might want to get involved, okay? But they may not feel as comfortable going out on the range training with a cross-section of men and women, and there may be a reason for that. You could have someone who comes from a domestic abuse relationship, and she feels more comfortable going out with the women on that monthly meetup. Okay, so those are the kind of things you're not going to get with an NRA.
Okay. So I love that, and I'm glad that you touched on that too, because that shows that you all have created the space that we as Black people need, right? Like that's what. Go ahead.
And we protect that space too. We protect it because we don't allow members who are new to firearms to be chastised by anyone. There's never a stupid question. We create an environment that is welcoming, an environment where everyone can learn. And if there are any types of isms, right, we shut it down, because that's not what folks are here for, right? They're here to learn, and there's a vast, pool of experience that they can learn from. They don't need to be turned off by, you ever saw that commercial where they talk about the gym and they're like, no lunks, right? They don't want to be turned off by the ultra tactical person, you know, who doesn't have time for the newbie. We love new people. We love new people who are new to firearms because they've made a decision. They've made a conscious decision, and we need to support that.
Mm. Thank you for mentioning that too, about ensuring that there are no isms present or any kind of biases or anything like that, because I think that that can be a deterrent for someone that's new, you know, entering into that space. So it's all inclusive. I like that.
Correct.
Miss Light, what about you?
So I'll jump in here. I have a different background. I did not grow up around guns. None of my family members had guns. I grew up in the South, was born and raised in Georgia. But I grew up in a Caribbean family where guns killed people. That's it. There was no recreation. There was no even real hunting, anything like that. So even to this day, most of my family is pretty not really into guns. I'm really the black sheep in that sense. But I actually did have a defining moment. For me, that was actually, I went to Georgia State and I lived downtown Atlanta. And I got to experience a really high increase in robberies that were happening during the time when I was going to school there. And this was happening, you know, just, I would be taking a class 9, 10 o'clock at night, having to walk back home. And then I would hear about a robbery that had happened somewhere I had passed by. There were robberies happening in the library. You know, people would be in there studying for their classes and someone would hold them up in the library for their phone or laptop or whatever. And, you know, that was something that was on my mind constantly. And I was trying to figure out a way how I could protect myself and give myself a sense of security, you know, in that environment. And so I was looking for an organization that would be friendly, open, not, you know, belittle anything like that, but where I could also help other women as well that were looking for the same thing, for the same security, for the same education. And so I went out and looked for a women's class that was actually taught by Tig, Marshall Tigner, who owns My Sister's Defense. At the time it was Trigger Happy Panda, but I actually took one of her classes. She recommended NAGA for me and said it would be a great organization to join. And I went to a meeting, I met Colin, I met Phil, and it was the organization I was looking for, the openness, you know, specifically around, they weren't like the tactical bros kind of situation.
Right.
And so that really helped me to just jump right in. I dove headfirst into the organization. You know, I had never picked up a gun before I had taken that class before. But within 3 months of going to that class, joining NAGA, then I became vice president. And then that's what kind of started my passion for our Ladies' Day event that we do once a month, and, you know, instructing the ladies and passing that knowledge on.
Okay.
It all stemmed from that situation. And that was, I joined in July of 2017. So my anniversary is next month.
Okay. Happy anniversary. Really quickly, I want to focus on your shirt because you showed us before I started. Can you show everyone your shirt? And I want to talk about why this is important.
Yeah.
Yep, I shoot like a girl, want to listen. All right, let's get into it.
Yes.
So I know that Mr. Matt mentioned before that there aren't any isms that are, you know, that are there. So in this particular context, sexism is not like a reality. But I think your shirt is important because there is this this stereotype. There is this stigma that women are weaker inherently and that we're not as skilled or, you know, skillfully trained in being able to shoot guns. Talk about why your shirt is important and how does it inspire other women to want to enter into the gun community?
Yeah, well, actually my shirt, I like to get shirts like this. I also have another shirt that says I carry a pistol because my rifle doesn't fit in my purse.
Okay, now.
So
Okay, now. Okay.
So I particularly like shirts like this because it does kind of open up the dialogue as far as if a woman or anyone, doesn't have to be just a woman, there are men as well that have similar fears or situations where they may not want, they might not think that they're part of the tactical bros or whatever.
Right.
They just want a welcoming environment. They want a family. And that's one big thing that I've also learned being in the organization is that we're a big family. I talk to them and see them as much as I see my family. But as far as the shirt goes, it kind of cuts through that initial stereotype that women don't shoot guns, or specifically Black women, when in fact Black women are like the highest rising category of gun owners
Right.
currently. So knowing that information in the back of their head, they're like, huh, that's interesting, right? And then they see another woman that is shooting, that is, going out there and having a good time and able to keep up with the guys, right, right. And that helps them get over that initial insecurity that they may not be able to shoot. And I find that a lot of women tend to be better once they actually have some instruction, and once they actually, put their mind to it, they're great shots.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that one. I'm a firearms instructor as well, and I've probably instructed, I'd say 8 to 10 couples.
Okay.
Right? Couples coming to training together, which I think is a great thing. And I would tell you that hands down, the women outshoot the men every time, right? And in some cases, the men are shocked as to why. So we always want to ask why. Why is that? Why does that happen? And from my determination,
I think it's pretty obvious.
why what you said it's obvious? Okay, so
No,
what is it?
I said because we're awesome. I think it's pretty obvious. End of discussion. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Mr. Mapp.
What I was going to say is, women, the women who I've instructed that were, in a couple, they just paid more attention. They paid more attention to detail, paid more attention to the instruction, and then actually took the instruction and applied it. Right. So a lot of times men come with these preconceived notions that they already know how, and they don't know how. Right. So instead of humbling themselves to learning the fundamentals and the basics, and then challenging themselves to apply it, right, they miss it. And then, the women outshoot them. Right. So for all the women who are out there who might not think that you can shoot or handle a firearm, right? Well, just look at Dr. Fred's girls, right? They're full of confidence. They're taking the instructions. You can tell that they're focused on what they're learning, and they're applying it. And that's all you have to do, right? So, along with being proficient is also understanding, situational awareness and understanding, what's going on around you. So, I think Cassandra represents very, very well for the ladies in our chapter, and has been a really strong component of the recruiting effort, right? So when they come through and they get coaching on a ladies' day, they typically end up, joining the organization because of the interactions that they're having with other women.
That's awesome.
And I think too, one thing.
I'm sorry.
No, I think one thing that we definitely have to understand, even in the gun community, like I think people think they're gonna get the tactical bro when they come out,
Right.
and that's necessarily not really it, because we found each other, like we and it's not just us, like it's a big community, and people are willing to show you these great things they know, and they're willing to teach you. You have to be open to it. But most of the people that Colin stuff, Mr. Mapp is talking about, they just want to come and say they can do it. They really don't want to be in the lifestyle. For these people that are on this panel, it's their lifestyle.
Right.
And you have to understand, like they're very open and welcome. I mean, when there's a very, very, very diverse community, it's not just one type of person that shoots.
Of course.
So, like my girls are survival sisters. Like with them, like if you have a 10-year-old that can shoot 600 yards, or she can do all these amazing things, and it's not because it's just they listen to the instruction.
Right.
But most people, especially in the African American communities, especially guys, they won't humble themselves enough to listen to an instructor. They got, even if they pay him to instruct, they still have to say something like, "Oh, I know somebody that can." It always has to be something instead of saying, "Let me humble myself."
My uncle.
Yeah.
My uncle taught me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always has to be. It has to be a
You
tip.
can't shoot either.
Yeah.
And a lot of the women, you know, what I tell them is, all we ask is that you be open to it, and you try, and you do your best, right? We're not asking you to be like Deadpool on the first shot, John Wick. We're not asking for any of that. Right, for first out the gate. And I think it actually, because women have less of the ego when they come into it, they're genuinely there to learn, right? And once they learn that what they're using is a tool, right? And if they learn how to use that tool correctly and use it for their benefit, right? That adds to that power. A lot of the women also have to get over the fear of the gun as well, or a bad experience they had. A lot of times the women will come in there and they have shot, but it's been an extremely bad experience, or a boyfriend or a male colleague or something have them shoot their Desert Eagle for fun, you know, and, you know, that's not a great first experience.
Yeah, not at all.
And I think that's actually why I personally push to make sure that experience is positive, right? Even for the women that may have had a first time negative experience, I want the second time to be positive, right? Because I want them to see the difference. So they can see what it's like when you have a positive experience, so they can take that with them. You know, we have women that will come to the events and they don't shoot for months. They just come, they absorb the information. You know, they gather their nerves, and they will eventually shoot, and then they will eventually buy a gun, and then, you know, at their own pace kind of situation. We don't ever push anyone into doing anything, right? It's at your own pace and your comfortability kind of situation.
So I have a different experience with entering into this world of firearms. So I grew up in the North. I grew up in Queens, New York. And if you know anything about New York and New York's gun laws, quite restrictive, right, as far as being able to carry a firearm or even possess a firearm. So I grew up in the, you know, late 70s, mid 80s, and, you know, it was rough out there on the street, you know. So my experience with guns was, the guns were a necessity for me, right? They were always, you know, it was always a part of my self-defense strategy. So I always had a gun or a knife. Although they were illegal, you know, there was not an option for me to not have it, right? So, you know, guns are still a part of a self-defense strategy for myself. You know, I do compete, but I compete far less than I carry, right? I carry because it's for protection of my family and my household. So that's what you know, why guns are important to me. So, you know, so you can say from age 14 through 18, you know, I've experienced, you know, gun ownership. When I went into the military is where I got my formal training in firearms. So I spent 4 years, United States Marine Corps. When I got out, I was still living in New York and New Jersey, very restrictive gun states. So I've been in Georgia now for 4 years, and I love it. Because it just opened up a whole new world for me. So now I can legally carry. I can practice when I want. There's a variety of spaces where I can practice, indoor or outdoor ranges, and there's a community here that of gun owners that, you know, I can learn from. Right? It's a very different situation when we're up in the North, and it's very challenging for, you know, many of our chapters and many of our brothers and sisters that are in those states that are very restrictive as far as the gun laws are concerned.
Thank you for sharing that too.
So, all right. So I'm kind of a stats and numbers guy because I'm kind of nerdy like that. So here's the breakdown why you see a lot of women going out to get their carry permits now. Okay. So there's a great website to go to, and actually they broke the data down for you. is from the Crime Prevention Research Center. And also you can find this on the Pew Research website as well. Okay. They did a survey of Black women over the course of 3 years during the increase. What's the driving factor behind you going out, getting a gun permit, buying a new gun? The one common denominator, mass shootings, churches, okay? Driving factor. Crime was secondary, okay? But the driving factor was a fear of what you had up in the Carolinas and in Texas with the shootings in the Black churches. That was one of the driving factors, okay? And just to piggyback on what Cassandra was saying, Black women are leading the gun sales within the Black community, and that's primarily why. Okay. Now you'll hear certain narratives that say, well, Black women are going out and buying firearms because there's this huge spike in crime with throughout the United States. Crime, for the most part, has kind of dipped in certain urban areas across the country. Okay. Except you have your pockets like Chicago and Detroit. Okay. But there's been a steady decline in certain areas. So I don't buy into that narrative that, okay, there's been a huge mass of crime wave throughout, for example, Metro Atlanta area, and that's why Black women are going to buy firearms. No, they're buying guns. They're going out and buying firearms because you see a rise of white supremacist activity throughout the country.
No, I totally agree with that. What about last year when there was this massive surge? I mean, it had been happening for a while, but there was a massive surge, I think, last summer and during the fall season of more Black women being kidnapped in these vans that were, right? Now, I'm from Atlanta originally, but I've been living in DC, Maryland area for like almost 11 years now. So when I heard about it, I was like, what's going on in my hometown? But I mean, there was a massive surge then, and I know a lot of Black women were really, their panic level was kind of kinetic. So
you will notice that there's a surge in correlation to that too. Okay, you'll also notice that there's a surge when the pandemic, and we're not done by any stretch of the imagination with the pandemic, but when it first hit the shores, okay, you had a surge. It wasn't white gun owners. It was you go into the urban areas, it was Black folks in the metropolitan areas throughout the country, and then Hispanics going out and buying the firearms. I'll give you an example. I was, I don't want to give them a plug without them paying some advertising on your show, but it was a gun store.
I'll get them later.
It was a gun store Fred introduced me to a couple months ago, Moss Pond. Okay. So I'm going to pick a layaway up I had down there. I'd never seen that many Black women at Moss Pond before in my time. Like for every Black male, there was like 7 or 8 Black women waiting in line.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not exaggerating.
I don't know.
Can I jump in, Dexter?
Part of it also is, I like what Colin said, it's an awakening.
Yeah.
Because I think women have been seeing the crime. I don't think they've necessarily been understanding what's actually happening, and they're not understanding that they can do something about it, right? They don't just have to wait to be one of those, to be a statistic or whatever. Right. They can actually take a proactive attempt to not be one of those people.
Right.
And I think they're starting to understand that. And a lot of the ladies, it's like word of mouth, like a friend of a friend of a friend is telling them, they're like, hey, I went to this class and had a great experience, right? So they tell their friend and they tell their friend, and that's how it gets spread.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Cassandra, because I think a lot of women have woke up to the fact that, let me just be honest, this is my opinion, that the cops are not there to protect you.
Right.
And I think that
was it for me.
Yeah,
that's what
that was it for me. Georgia State, we had to petition them to get extra security.
Oh, wow.
Help reduce those armed robberies. They kept happening, and Georgia State did not do anything about it. We petitioned to get the extra security, to get the metal detectors to prevent people coming off of because Georgia State's a public university, basically downtown Atlanta, anyone can walk off the street and go into the library, right? We had that removed. We had that ability to remove. So only students, faculty, could get into the library, right? That started to also reduce. They also had security on every floor, whereas before they only had them at the front, just things like that. But we had a petition for that. They didn't do that proactively.
Right.
And then you also didn't have campus carry at the time. Sorry, Colin.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Now, one of the, I think one of the things that we should never overlook is the fact that, forums like this, right? Social media influencers like, the Survival Sisters, organizations such as ours, right? There's a normalization. We're starting to normalize. We're starting to change the narrative, right? Cassandra grew up in a West Indian household. I did too. My uncle brought us guns for Christmas, and my mom had a fit, right? She's like, "Get those guns out of my house," So, now my children, they see guns, they see rifles, they see guns on my hip. It's normal. So in the next generation, it becomes normal to see firearms in the possession of your family, right? Especially, in a Southern culture, you see it more, because you have the land and the space to go out hunting. In an urban environment, we don't really see it, right? And the restrictions of the gun laws causes it to be taboo. The media shows you that guns are just used for violence, right? The media shows you that only a certain demographic, use guns inappropriately, and it's not the case. So when we start to change the narrative by normalizing gun ownership and normalizing competitive sports and the shooting sports and hunting, then this is another reason why you see so many gun owners coming forward, because now they see that they can, right? Whereas before it was all hidden, right? So now we got to bring it out in the open, right? So it's not just, and I resist a lot of these news media interviewers who come and their headline is always about Trump and we don't fear them. We don't fear Trump. We don't fear any type of white inferiorists because they're not supremacists, right? We don't fear their complexes. We don't fear them. We never did, and we never will, right? So they don't drive me to do anything. What drives me is the protection of my family from any threat, right? Including them, right? So it's not because of them that we do it, right? And there's no fear involved in this, right? And I'm very passionate about it because we've always resisted. We've always fought. We've always fought back. If you look at the Deacons for Defense, if you look at, great, firearms advocates like Amzie Moore, if you look at some of these historical figures from the Black tradition of arms, which we do educate on, you'll see that they had a prominent place in our community when civil rights activists were coming here to the Deep South and they had to do their good work in a nonviolent way. There were guns protecting them. There were folks who stayed up all night with shotguns at the window, making sure there were no drive-by shootings, right? So they were real heroes, real champions. And that's what we haven't been educated on, because that education is powerful. So now we have an opportunity to educate, to let you know what your history is, so that you can take ownership of this Second Amendment right and take ownership of this human right to self-protection and safety, and normalize it in your family, so that let's flood the market. Let's flood the market, right? And let's get some Black gun manufacturers out there too that we can buy from.
Can I jump on, Colin?
Yeah, no doubt.
Just to tell you how I really got into it. Like I grew up around guns, but I didn't realize until I started taking these contractor trainings how much I didn't know about guns. Like I've seen them, but as far as really learning how to fight with them, I had to really go and learn how to fight with them. Like you may have them, anybody can pull a trigger, and I think that's what people like Colin was saying. I'm just going to infer, but like what he was saying, like I don't worry about other people that have guns. Right. I worry about creative people that create stuff. You understand? That's what really I'm scared of. Right. But guns and not that like Afghanistan type stuff. That's creative people. Okay. The one thing that I can say about the gun community is like my girls are in the gun community, and it has done so much for their self-esteem, them as women, them as little people, them interacting with people, and they've met good people. I know they give Dexter a hard time, But
And rightfully so.
yeah,
Rightfully so.
yeah. But you know, Dexter will come over and bring all these toys and then be like, look what I got. And he doesn't expect to get no slack. It's like going to a candy store and not buying the kids candy, you know?
Right.
But the thing about it is that's what they need to understand. Like, you can't tell me anybody that's truly in the gun community, and I'm pretty sure they can't. People in the gun community have great self-esteem, and it's not because of the gun, it's because of the community.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because the people that they're around build them up. Because if you don't have to be a good shooter. You don't even have to buy a gun. I guarantee you go to the gun range, somebody like Dexter, he got a truck full of guns.
Mhm.
But the thing about it is like Cassandra's been out telling Cassandra, it's like people will give it to you like, look, shoot this, do this.
They want to. They want to.
They want to.
Yeah.
Because
true gun owners they want to spread the love of guns. They want other people to catch the bug too, so that they can share it with them.
I do feel it. I definitely feel it.
Yeah.
I myself did not grow up around guns or anything. When we were very small, our mom had a gun, you know, but we never had to use it or anything in our house or in our neighborhood or anything. It's relatively quiet. So I didn't grow up around it, but I have shotguns several times, many times, but I'm not that well educated on it. And so, you know, the folks who are tuning in are people kind of like myself, you know, and just listening to you all, it's already been a wealth of information for me personally. So I'm excited for that.
I want to piggyback on something that Colin was talking about as far as some of the historical figures.
Yes.
Two individuals that I think don't get enough love from Black Americans, African Americans, as far as the African American Second Amendment community is concerned. That's Ida B. Wells and Harry McNeil Turner. Mm-hmm. Ida B. Wells is the most watered down. When I say she is watered down by white liberals and white conservatives and Black folks as well. Thanks. Okay. She was extremely revolutionary for her time in her beliefs in Black folks defending themselves with a firearm. You know, one of her most famous quotes, which is always quoted out of context because people like to take it out of context, was basically every Black person, I'm going to paraphrase it, but every Black person should have a Winchester rifle in their home, basically protect them from these Klan. That's kind of that's the paraphrasing of the quote. Now you go look at the quote yourself, because it's about a paragraph and a half. Okay. And the reason she had written this particular scathing editorial, now when she did this, they ran up out of Mississippi. But she wrote this scathing editorial. It was during, I think it was the Red Summer, it was called 1919. You had these lynchings going throughout the South and the Midwest. And there was a lynching that took place down in Florida. And in her editorial, she said, I'm tired of good Negroes. I'm tired of good Black men. I'm tired of good Black women. And I'm putting in historical context for you now. She said, a good Black man, a good Black woman is going to get us killed. Mm-hmm. She said, I want you to go and get armed and defend your home, defend your property. Okay. And I piggyback on what Cole was saying because I just had to throw Ida out there because a lot of times, you know, you get these groups out there and they'll whitewash her legacy. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, state senator here out of Georgia, hit one of his famous quotes, and may God give you good aim when you shoot. Now, what led to that? He was, before he was run out of Georgia himself, he gave a impassionate speech to the Georgia General Assembly. And the speech centered around Black voting rights and equal rights under the law at the time. Okay. Well, he ends the speech by saying God is a Black man. Of course, that was the wrong thing to say up in the Georgia General Assembly. And so he then, a couple of weeks later, he writes a scathing editorial because there were a bunch of lynchings that took place throughout the South. He said, Negroes, I need you to go get your guns. I need you to load your guns. I need you to ensure that you protect your home and your family against these intruders that are going to come on your property. Any intruder. And these are the kinds of people within the legacy within the Black Second Amendment community that have laid the foundation for where we are now. And like I said, the history gets watered down a lot of times. And I encourage folks to go out, read up on those two individuals. And I'm going to end it with that.
Yep. It's impossible for you to own something without protecting it, right? Think about it. How do you own something without protecting it? Right? We don't own homes without protecting it, right? We're required to have protection for it. We don't own our vehicles. There's nothing that we own that we don't protect. We don't leave diamonds, on the hood of our car and go in to the house and sleep at night and expect it to be there when we come back.
Hold on now. Hold on, let me stop you there. Stop. The Bible won't protect me.
Excuse me?
The Bible won't protect me.
God helps those who help themselves.
There
Right?
you go.
So
I'm telling you I'm telling you some of the pushback I get on next door when
well, the Bible I read, King David slayed many, many, many thousands of people. Right? So with God's grace, right? So we won't get into that. But to own something, you must protect it, right? You must protect it. And for me, I love my family so much that I'm willing to take any measure to protect them. And they know it. You spend 26 years or 19 years raising a child, you spend 26 years in a relationship, for someone to come in and destroy it.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way for me, right? So it's because I love my family, it's because I love my community that I have these guns. It's not just to have a gun, and say I'm John Wick. No, it's not that, right? It's because these relationships that we own and this legacy in our family that we own, we want to protect it. That's what it's about, right? We want to protect the next generation. So that's why we
and our rights.
Yeah, because you'll get these segments within the African American community that will try to cajole and bully other African Americans away from the Second Amendment path. And you see it all the time. I do a lot of I go on next door in my area to try to recruit members for our local chapter of NAG here in Georgia. And you'll be surprised the kind of pushback that I see. I mean, ridiculous intergalactic pushback. It's just utter nonsense.
But and yes, you got to understand. A lot of people, when they get to a lot, that's why you see me playing with the girls all the time. A lot of grown people, when they get to a point in life where they feel like they should know certain things, they refuse to accept anything that you give them because they don't want to be seen. Somebody being talking down to them or teaching them something.
Until they have a personal experience.
Exactly.
When they have a personal experience is when they change. You can't change them. They need to have a personal experience. See, I've had my personal experiences and it's not fun, right? So, and I know you've had, Dr. Fred, I know you've had a personal experience. So we can't wait until we have a personal experience because then it may be too late.
Right.
Exactly. I've told my fiance, the women out there who are listening and doing this, they're going to think what I'm about to say is real coarse and harsh.
Then don't say it. Don't say it.
Hold on.
You gotta lead with a preface on the statement.
That's why I had to leave
welcoming, positive.
Okay. So
if I want to flip back.
You're almost there,
Fred actually put this in my mouth to say to her a couple of months ago. So I'm having this. I finally got her to do a gun purchase, and I said something to her that Fred kind of helped me to come to realize. And I said, look, you live in Cobb County. I live out between Conyers out this way. Someone breaks in your house, it's taking me 45 minutes on a good day to get to you. I can't be there to help you and save you. The police response time in your county is somewhere between probably 10, 15 minutes. And that's on an armed robbery, assuming you're not injured, okay? I am not going to be there to help you. I can't get there in time.
That's
So
true.
what does this mean? This means I'm going to take you to this gun range. You're going to find a firearm that best suits you. You're going to join the same organization I am. You can go to the Women's Auxiliary monthly meetings. We'll get you in that. You'll learn your proficiency, because at the end of the day, your future husband ain't going to be there for you 24 hours a day. And that's the reality. That's true. And I say that, and that sounds real harsh to a lot of sisters out there listening, but that's the truth. Your husband, your boyfriend is not going to be there to help and save you. No one is coming to save you other than you.
Well,
And then I blame Fred Thrash for telling me that. I blame Fred Thrash for telling me that.
Well, it sounds harsh because you're touching on something that's really important here. I think it sounds harsh because of this deeply entrenched patriarchal mindset, right? Like, a lot of women have been told from the time that they've been little girls that in order for you to be protected, you have to depend on some man, either your father, an uncle, or granddad, or your older brother, somebody in the community. And what you're saying, and what Dr. Thrasher told you to tell your fiance was
he went about a gun. Don't let him.
Oh, okay.
He just wanted another gun. He just wanted another gun. That's it.
But what you're saying is very, very real, right? And this goes into how women and people, everybody in general, you have to empower yourself and understand that you can save yourself. You have to save yourself. It's as simple as that.
Can I say something?
Please jump in.
In Colin, watch this. People go get mad when I say this. Black Wall Street was one of the pinnacles of Black society in this time. They had everything that every other culture probably wanted or needed or whatever. You could flip $1 6 times in that community. The one thing they did not have was a defense force, their own defense force. I guarantee you. And this is one thing that we talk about, Dexter. I know Sandra, you heard me do some lectures when we talked before. I will tell you, you cannot keep anything that's worth somebody can take it from you. And that's it. And one thing about being a gun owner, we don't practice on using it, we practice on not using it.
Okay.
The thing about that is that if you're prepared, you will not, because if you prepare for something, you will not have to use it. But if you are not prepared, that's when it's always going to happen. Most gun owners, they train, they practice, but you know what though? They use situational awareness to avoid everything. So
their worst nightmare is to have to use your gun.
Yeah.
Right. And because we have this responsibility, because we have the ability to have a license to carry a firearm on our person, we're held to a higher standard, right, of ethics. So we tend to think more about the argument that we're going to get to and not escalating it, right? We tend to de-escalate it because we have the gun on us, right? We try our best to avoid the issue, right? Evade the problem. But in the end, if you can't do any of those things, then what's left, right? You must be able to defend yourself. And this is the problem that Black Wall Street had. But it's a great historical reference because we need to learn from it, and so that it never happens again. Ida B. Wells should never been run out of town, right? The legislators in South Carolina should have never been run out of town. Their land should never have been stolen. Their businesses should have never been stolen, right? It created wealth for other people because they were ran up out of town and they walked into these businesses that were flourishing and took it over and created generational wealth for their people, right? This should never happen again, right? So if you own it, protect it, right? If that's not true, then why do you have an alarm on your house? If that's not true, then leave your door open tonight. See what happens. If you believe that you don't need some form of self-defense or protection for your family, then do all those things and let's see what happens.
Wool over your eyes.
Let's see what happens. Right? Let's test the theory. Let's test the theory. So it's not uncommon. It shouldn't be an uncommon thing for you to take measures in protecting yourself. Now we talk about firearms, but it's also being able to use these things right here, right? And it's also being able to use, improvised weapons like this, right? So it's all
And
those
your words.
Yeah, and it's not being, or using your words to diffuse a situation or de-escalate a situation. So it's about having a defensive mindset, right? Now, if it's firearms are involved, then you need to get proper training, right? Not from your uncles in them, right? Who got a little piece of land out there that they shoot on. It's not that. It's from qualified instructors, right? Who are going to educate you on how to properly apply these tools, right? To save yourself and your family. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing?
Let me say this, and two, and I respect everybody because I have, I got a lot of friends that are special forces and stuff like that. A lot of friends that are cops. Dexter, you met some of them.
Yes.
I'll tell you, but they will tell you like you can find people that have never been in the military that can train you just as well. Because one thing about that military mindset and that LEO mindset, well, law enforcement mindset, is that they take a different approach than civilians do. They want you to wear all this gear a certain way. They want you to do stuff a certain way. They want you to stand a certain way. They want you to do this. But the thing about it is like that makes it more complicated. Like I've gotten into it people because they be like they want to talk about nose over toes. Something I heard at some cop training or whatever. But you're not gonna be shooting nose over toes and people firing rounds at you. Right. But the thing about it is that you have to make people. But what happens is that when people come out to get training, they make it so complicated that people don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable. If you stand on one leg and you can hit the target, guess what? You hit the target. Right. We want you to be comfortable. We just want people to know that when you come out, we have something tailored for that person. Gotcha. Our mindset of defense is we teach people from their disadvantages to defend themselves. Okay. Because if you're a female and you locking up with somebody like me, 205, that's not gonna work. But the thing about it is I guarantee you, if Cassandra had to lock up with me, that really honestly, she feels like she's on even playing field. And that's what we want people to be. Like, we want people to be in that place where they feel that way. I want my kids to feel that way. Right. I tell my kids all the time, I said, you know what though? Survive until I get there. If you can survive until I get there, I guarantee you, I will bring the fireworks. Okay. But the thing about it is just like Colin said, just like Cassandra said, just like Dexter said, we have to get in the mindset that those things that you see are just tools. Like he said, if you don't want to get a gun, which we all recommend that, take some kind of defensive mindset training that can help you understand that I need to protect myself. Because, like I said, you have these groups that you can join with people that will tailor training to you, take care of you, coach you, give you these life lessons without it being nose over toes. You got to been here, or you got to buy. You go to some place, they want you to have a certain firearm to even train. And that intimidates people because most people don't. No, because you hadn't found any value in your own self-defense. You're not going to spend $600 on a gun. Yeah, once you find value in you, you will.
Right. There are many of our members who haven't purchased a firearm yet, or haven't gotten their concealed carry license yet, and that's fine. We tell them that's fine. If you've made a decision that the firearm is only for home defense and you're not comfortable with carrying it on your person out in the community, then that's fine. We're not going to push you towards doing that. Right. Now, we will tell you the benefits of doing it. Right. But we'll also tell you about Georgia law that says that, the gun that you purchased, the firearm that you purchased, you can have it in your home without having to have a carry license. And you can also have it in your vehicle without having to have a carry license. So, right. So there's aspects of the law that allow you to, operate within your own comfortability, right? Until you make a decision, a personal decision to carry, then we'll tell you how to take that next step in having the proper, garments, having the proper retention for that firearm, having the proper, off-body carry or belt, so we'll give you those tips so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and do the research yourself, right? There's experience here.
That's really good. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Mr. Mapp, you mentioned about the Georgia conceal and carry laws. So for everybody that's located in Atlanta or throughout Georgia, y'all listen to that piece. For people who are listening who are from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, what do they need to know? Are there any resources that you can provide them in terms of what they need to know about carry, conceal, gun ownership in those regions?
Well,
Or
there's
where
a,
can they access?
yeah, that's a very good website, usconcealcarry.org.
Okay.
I believe it's .org,
Thank
usconcealcarry.org. And on there, it tells you by state, a brief outline of the state-specific law, and then also reciprocity between the various states, right? So if you're traveling with a firearm, you know, you're traveling from the DMV area to Georgia, you know, what reciprocity Georgia has with DC and Maryland. Let me
Even
just,
within the South.
And that's very important because you don't want to do what I almost did, take your gun from Georgia to Washington State.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, even last week I went up to North Carolina and drove through South Carolina, who has different reciprocity laws with us than North Carolina has.
Okay.
And it's usconcealcarry.com.
Oh, .com. Okay.
.com.
All right.
usconcealcarry.com. And if I look at a state view, let's say District of Columbia, I'm on the website right now. It'll pull up, you know, what you need to do in order to obtain your carry license or purchase.
And that's just the first step. You got to know the laws. You got to keep up with the laws too, because they're changing.
Okay. And
They're always updating it.
that was another question that I had as well, because, you know, it's not just this administration or anything like that, but at any point in time, we have seen and we know that various politicians can pervert, you know, fixed constitutional laws, right? So I'm happy that you mentioned that, because people need to know to stay updated on these policies and these changes that could potentially occur. It's just one of the ways in which they can also arm themselves with knowledge about the laws in their respective jurisdictions, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the first thing. If you're traveling and you know you're going to have a weapon, the first thing you should do is be checking those laws, right? To make sure you're not going to put yourself in a situation where you could be arrested, or you could have some kind of gray area situation, as you know, regardless of if they require a specific concealed carry training, if you have a duty to inform the officer you have a weapon.
Okay.
Things like that are important to know. Also, where you have to have it in your vehicle. Can it be out, or does it have to be locked? In a locked vehicle, does your ammo have to be separate from your gun? Those are all things you want to know.
Got you.
To travel. And if you're flying, that's even a whole other.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Ooh, Lord.
So that website is a website that is my go-to website.
Okay.
Because I do travel. I travel for work. And you know, anytime I travel for work, I like to try and find a good gun range where I can blow off some steam and kind of decompress. And you know, if I'm able to you know, possess in that state, then typically sometimes I'll drive so that I can, you know, carry my weapons in the car and and be able to go out and practice, you know, in the state that I'm visiting. So I consult that website, and that website, just as Cassandra said, it tells you, you know, where you can and cannot, you know, carry. Is open carry permitted? Can you carry a firearm inside of a bar, right? So it gives you everything you need to know in a very condensed form, state by state. So that's the absolute go-to that I would you know, tell the audience.
That's great resource.
And the reason that's so important, what Colin and Cassandra just touched on, I'll go back to why I was laughing about what almost happened to me is leaving Georgia to Washington. I didn't properly read the law of reciprocity from Georgia to Washington. And so a couple hours before I got on my flight, I said, let me go back and read this again. I'm not sure I read this right. There's no reciprocity with the state of Georgia and Washington, excuse me, the state of Washington, rather.
Right.
Now, and I packed up my gun and flew into Washington with it. Okay, there's no telling what could have happened when I got off the plane. I could have had a New York State moment. You got an example. What that means is you have a lot of folks that will fly in from southern states like Georgia into the state of New York. They tell you up front, look, we're going to lock you up when you get off this plane because we don't recognize your Georgia permit. And furthermore, you can't have this gun in our airport. They tell you this. So you get these individuals flying in from Georgia to New York State. And I'm trying to think if there was a case where a woman actually got arrested. She became a felon because of that.
Yep.
Okay.
And even if you're traveling through that state,
Yep. Layover.
you get to a state that does recognize your carry permit. If you get stopped within the state, you've got issues too. If you have a connecting flight through a state like New York or New Jersey, you have issues. So it's very important that we understand the reciprocity between states and making sure that we stay legal, with the firearms that we have.
You were gonna share something?
Oh, I was gonna ask Colin. Like, I know a lot of the biggest question for most people is what kind of gun or what caliber they need to purchase when they first start. And
this is gonna be a fight.
Oh. Before one of the questions I was gonna ask that many other people who are tuning in and who will be looking at the replay later, they're not gun owners, but some people are very curious. So I would like to know, are there like a list of top 5 things that y'all can think of that people need to know? I mean, y'all have given a wealth of information, like even with me just sharing usconcealedcarry.com website, that's one resource there. But like, if you could lay it out in like a top 5, or I don't know, 6, list of top 6 things that people need to know.
Number 1 would be safety fundamentals.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If you're going to be a gun owner, you need to be safe with it. That's always number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
would they get that through training, like obviously proper training?
Well, we'll give it to you right now, very quickly.
Yeah, we'll give you.
So,
we'll give you
so there are 5 fundamental rules of firearm safety. 1 is treat all guns as if they're loaded always.
What if it's unloaded?
This is a mindset. Even when it's unloaded, we're going to treat it as if it's loaded. Number 2, keep your finger off the trigger, right? If you're not engaging a target, then your finger should be off the trigger and along the frame of the gun. Number 3, never point the muzzle at anything that you're not willing to destroy, right? So we have to be mindful of where we point that firearm. So with those 3, right, if we're treating it as loaded, if our finger is not on the trigger, and if we're not pointing it at anything that we're not willing to destroy, that takes care of 99% of any negligent incidents that may happen.
Let me add this.
not accidental.
Yep.
Let me add this when you talk about the muzzle, because most people may not even know when you say muzzle.
Correct.
I tell my girls all the time, the muzzle is the front end of the gun. Treat it like it's a lifesaver, like on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Wherever you point it, you still might hit somebody. So you need to point it in a safe direction.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So number 4 is know your target and what is around it. So if you're practicing with a firearm, and there are safe dry fire practice techniques, right? Then we're still, even though there's no ammunition in the room and there's no ammunition in the gun, and we're just practicing with basically a safe firearm, we're still not pointing it in just any direction. So we need to know what our target is, right? So if I'm in an apartment building, then there may be units above me, below me, and to the left and right of me. So I need to find a location where I can point that firearm, right? Where if for some reason it went off, right, we still wouldn't impact the neighbor that's next door. In a self-defense situation, you may have people that are running in an active shooter type of environment, a crowded environment. So you need to know what your target is. If your target is the bad guy and a friendly runs in front, right, you don't want to shoot either. So that situational awareness around your target is important. And then the final rule is never attempt to catch a falling gun. If a gun is falling and you attempt to catch it, you may introduce your finger into the trigger guard and inadvertently fire that weapon, right? And you don't know where it just as Dr. Fred said, that's a lightsaber, is now spinning in the air. You don't know where that bullet's gonna land. So these 5 fundamental rules have not just to be memorized, but we have to put them into practice at all times, right? So that's one. The second thing I would say that you need to know is that it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
Just because your neighbor has the the M&P shield doesn't mean that the M&P shield is right for you. So it's just like shoes. You've got to try them on, right? Because it's not one size fits all. You have to make sure that firearm is comfortable in your hand. Make sure that the grip and the stippling of it is not creating abrasions on your hand, because if it's not comfortable to shoot with, how much are you going to practice?
Not at all. It's gonna sit in the box in your nightstand.
It's going to sit in the box and you won't know, So there's not one perfect gun.
Goes back to caliber as well. Thinking if you are newer and may not know how to manage that recoil with a good grip, right? You might not want to go out and purchase a 45 for your first gun.
Which is a larger, it's a larger cartridge.
Round.
There's more propellant in that cartridge, and that caliber is the diameter of the cartridge. So the larger that cartridge is, the more force, right, it's delivering, and more recoil that you may have to manage. So for a very new shooter, I mean, I would recommend, and there are other opinions, but I would recommend a 9mm for a number of reasons. One is because it is a smoother, a more manageable recoil. Two, it's a more available round, right? You can find it, and because it's so available, the cost per round is a lot lower than other types of calibers. So cost is also a factor too.
It is.
If you're buying 1,000 rounds to practice with, I'd rather pay less than more.
How often should you go to the gun range, Colin?
I would say at least minimum twice a month. This is a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So at least twice a month at a minimum, right? Because and at least one formal training class a year, at least one a year. So there's a difference between training and practice. Training is where we develop new skills that we did not have. Practice is where we're honing the skills that we've learned and fine-tuning it to where we're practicing it perfectly, right? So in training, you get to learn various skills. So there's basic handgun skills, there's defensive handgun skills, right? Those skills have to be learned from a trainer, right?
And would you also just expound on the fact that even trainers go get training, because we still need people to make sure that we're innovative in what we're doing, and we're on course with the new trends that are going on.
Right.
So
I always ask folks, who's the greatest golfer? Who's the greatest golfer?
Always changing.
Tiger Woods. I'm gonna say Tiger Woods, right? So do you think Tiger Woods had a coach?
Oh yeah.
Do you think he still does?
Yes.
Do you think Tiger Woods' coach shoots golf better than he does?
I think his coach does. I would think.
He doesn't. He doesn't. His coach does not shoot golf better than he does, right? So his coach understands the concepts of golf. His coach understands how to challenge Tiger Woods to get the best out of him, right? But he's not a better golfer than Tiger Woods, right? So Tiger Woods, the one who's actually performing it. So it's the same with our training, right? We have to go to someone who's going to hold us accountable. We're going to have to go to someone who's going to push us beyond our limits to get the best out of us. But ultimately, it's on us to perform, right?
I got another good one for you. Cassandra. What do you need to be aware of with trainers, with instructors? With instructors, like somebody looking for an instructor.
Looking for an instructor? Well, first you need to be aware that every instructor has their own way of instructing, right? And may have gone through different courses. They may have a different background and how they teach. I know personally, before I take a training class, I always try to, I look for the instructor first before I look for the training. But that's me personally when I'm getting training, especially if I'm going to get into defensive training, something like that. When you're starting out though, you want to at least get that basic course like I did. I went and took TIG's basic handgun course just to get me those fundamentals down, right? That way I'm not starting from scratch. I have something to give me a foundation that I can build on. And then I can go from there. And then you can add other classes. You can start branching out and looking at different instructors, different types of courses. You can start getting into a little more in depth, maybe into concealed carry or home defense or competition, something like that, as far as training goes.
So, so just to add to that, what's very empowering are the 5 fundamental rules of firearm safety that we spoke about. So once you know them, right, and once you've committed to them, when you evaluate a trainer or you're working with a trainer, see how closely they follow the rules. Right? It's going to inform you about what type of trainer they are. Are they just talking about the rules, or are they actually practicing what they're preaching? Right? So it's going to be a very good indicator that if the instructor swings around with a weapon towards a firearm towards the learners that are in the classroom and doesn't have very good muzzle discipline, right? That end of the gun that the bullet comes out is pointing at people in the classroom, then you need to pack up and you need to leave. And I don't care if you already paid for the class, right? The $200 that you paid for the class is not worth your life. So I would highly recommend, right, that you watch the instructor and how they demonstrate those fundamental safety rules. Because if the environment is not safe, how can you learn?
Exactly.
Right. And I would add to that as well. If you have an instructor who, like when I have the ladies' days and I'm instructing, something I tell them is you want to have those safety fundamentals ingrained. They should just be second nature to you, right? If someone asks you, you should be able to just repeat that, right? And it becomes just like gun ownership becomes a lifestyle, safety becomes a lifestyle, right? You're always checking and double checking to make sure you're being safe, to make sure everyone around you is being safe. Always, if you see something unsafe, you're telling them, right? Not to be mean, to educate, right? To possibly save lives. And something I always show is that once you start getting that safety into your head, you'll notice that you're safer on other things besides firearms, right? Everything you do, you're safer at doing it, right? You're analyzing things more. You're more aware of what you're doing, what you're doing, how it affects other people, even to the point where if you notice that people pick up their phones, their phone with their fingers straight. So I pick my phone up like that.
Okay.
That's because I'm so used to picking that phone up with my fingers straight on the slide. Right? Just little things like that, you'll notice.
And this will be the third and most important thing. A lot of people buy firearms, they'll get it, they'll go to the range and they'll put it up and never touch it again. Do you have to be comfortable with your firearm?
I would think yes.
If I had $1 for every time a woman showed up with a gun that their boyfriend from 4 years ago gave them, or it was a cute little pink gun. But even my own sister, she was actually in the Navy, and she has a gun, and I asked her where it was, and she said it's in my nightstand, but she never shot it before. Right? Wow. That's a very common thing.
Yeah. The other thing that's very common is, new firearm owners and even those who have been around firearms for a long time. I've seen this happen. They go out and they spend $400 or $500 or $600, $700 on a firearm, and when you look at the owner's manual, it looked like they never opened it. Okay. So the owner's manual is in the box for a reason, right? It's for you to read it cover to cover, right? It's not for you to assume that you know what's in it. So I read my owner's manual from cover to cover because in it are those 5 fundamental safety rules, and I read them over again, even though I practice it, right? I learn how to disassemble that firearm, reassemble that firearm. In that owner's manual is how to care for the firearm, how to clean it, how to lubricate it, what type of ammunition goes in it, what's the, it's everything you need to know about that firearm. It's in that manual. Why wouldn't you open it? Right? You just spent $700 on it and you won't open it?
What's the reason? What any of you can answer, but what do you think the reason is that people don't actually use these guns that they've purchased?
Don't actually use them? I would say the number one reason is that they don't have someone to coach them, right, into getting training and practicing, and they don't have a community that they are a part of that encourages firearms, training and practice, right?
And development.
Yeah, and the piggyback on that, when I go to the range, like I said, the two ranges I go to primarily is Stardust and the Governor's Gun Range, and I can be I can be a safety Nazi. I don't make any apologies about that. I'll start shooting, and I'll back away from my bay, and I'll just kind of look left and right, and I'm looking to see what's around me. And I think it's a good best practice to have, because I have corrected folks from putting rounds in backwards in the mag. I don't know how that even happened. I remember that to this very day. Some guy put his rounds in backwards in the magazine, and he got the magazine into.
You got to explain to people what the magazine is, Dexter, because we're talking to people who are not in the gun culture.
Right.
Huh?
You got to explain to them what the magazine is, because we're talking to people that are not in the gun culture.
Okay.
Gun culture, but somehow watch a lot of violent movies.
Okay. So this is a magazine. All right. This shiny thing right here.
Awesome.
Okay.
It's not a clip.
It's not a clip. It's not a matter of fact. If you want me to curse you out, call this a clip. This is not a clip. This is a magazine.
Now there is such thing as a clip.
There is such thing as a clip.
So there are stripper clips. Stripper clips are used to load magazines, right? But that's not a clip.
Okay. All right.
Let me ask you another question for all of y'all. The one thing that I hear a lot at the range is this right here. Like, everybody, if you'll say take a class, and they'll say, nah, I'm just gonna get my boyfriend to show me, or I'm gonna get my dad to show me.
That's a bad mistake.
And a lot of people have guns, they have them, and they talk. And for people who don't know, you can get in front of a bunch of people that don't know about guns and show them a gun. They're like, oh, he loves guns. Just because you love guns don't mean you actually know how to do gunfighting.
Right.
I can go on WebMD. And look at all the symptoms of coronavirus, and I can diagnose myself with corona. That doesn't make me a doctor or an expert in my field.
Exactly.
I don't have a degree, right? So why not go to an expert? Or at least someone that's had some kind of training. And I will say that just because you have a certification doesn't necessarily make you a superb instructor, right? Like Colin was saying, you need to, have your own investigation, have your own thought process when you are looking at an instructor or taking a class, right? So
that's a great point.
Well, anytime you invest in yourself, you will get the highest rate of return, right? I forgot who said that quote, but anytime you invest in yourself, you'll always get the highest rate of return. So if you spent $700 on a firearm, wouldn't it make sense to at least spend a third of that for a training class, which is only $250, right? So if we took one training class, that's $250 or $300 for the entire year, that really breaks down to, $20 a month, $30 a month. That's less than your cable bill, right? So in a self-defense situation, which is going to protect you more? Your cable TV box or your ability to use your firearm proficiently?
But you got these folks that go to the range. Hold on. You got these folks that go to the range. Their shot spread is off. It looks like they shooting a shot. It looks like shooting shooting bird shot and buckshot. Okay, because it's all over the place. Okay. and they're convinced, and I'm agreeing with you, Colin, but they're convinced, okay, you know what? If I can just get off enough rounds, I'll get the assailant. And I'm looking at one guy on the range. Yeah. And I'm looking at one guy on the range, like, look, your target is 10 feet. Your spread is all over the place. You hit the target running in the shoulder. 3 of the other shots are off in the blank area. So for all I know, you just shot your mama. Okay. I said, I tell you need an instructor. I said, I have an instructor. I got a guy I go to, like Cola says, I pay Mitch. I go to Mitch at Stardust maybe like twice a year. Okay. Because you don't know it all. You don't. And you gotta hone that skill. And for a lot of guys, it comes down to, it comes down to their penis. Yeah. That's what it is. It is.
For sure.
It is. It is.
How humbling is the tactical game for people? How humbling is it?
Very humbling.
Honestly. Well, first of all, what's the tactical game?
Okay, go ahead and tell them the tactical game, Dexter.
All right. So a year ago, I came up with an idea. I saw this advertisement for the tactical games, and I said, that's cool, but I don't see a lot of Black folks there. Okay, I don't see a lot of African Americans. Not that none were participating. And I say, well, let me put out an invitation to a group of people, maybe about 10. It grew from 10 to I think about 20 people came. That wasn't my original intent. My original intent was to actually have a small amount of people and kind of get a best practice on how to move this forward for 2020. It was a tactical shootout cardio game where it's very humbling. Participants would work a course. You're running a course. You got your equipment on. You got your rifle. You got your pistol. You've got to tote a bag. You got to tote the bag. Put it down. Shoot. Carry the bag again. You've got an obstacle course to run, and then you got elimination. Then you have an elimination process. Okay, and it gets your heart rate up. And when that heart rate is up, you find out if you're a good shooter or not. You find out if you're a good shooter if all of a sudden if you got sweat pouring down in your face. And you've got 3 more obstacles to get to, and this is rugged terrain. This is out in the woods where we're doing this. All right, because an indoor range will make you soft. It will make you extreme.
You have an unrealistic expectation of what should happen in real life in a real scenario. So that you're going to stand there in front of your target with your arms out, perfect rectangle there, and it's going to stand still and not move.
So another great point for the folks who are tuning in to know. Y'all are saying it's much better for them to shoot on an open range rather than. Is that what y'all saying?
No. What is it like? Everybody needs to take the fundamentals. Everybody needs to go take a basic class so they can get the basics.
Right.
Well, we need the foundation. When when you get to the point to where you're doing that, in shooting, there are levels to it. There are different levels, and what we have to do is you have to make sure that what you're doing is realistic. Okay. Because what happens is if you get, let's say Colin goes to the gun range twice a month and he's shooting a target this big, and he's getting everything in this circle like this right here. Right. Well, now he's going. If he doesn't go to another level, he's gonna think, "Oh, I'm good. I don't need to do it anymore. I am good." So what happens is we have to. Yeah, it's just like school. You have to challenge yourself. Yeah. Because not all targets are the same. But when you start,
you can always get better. You can always get better.
Always get better.
If that's another thing to look out for instructors as well. If you have an instructor that thinks they're the absolute master of everything and has nothing to learn, that's not the one for you, right? Because instructors are always learning themselves. They're always trying to improve themselves, trying to get better, trying to find better ways to communicate, articulate, educate to their students. So if they think that they know everything,
right. And that was the premise of the tactical games. I've had to tell more people no than yes, because people will see the videos that all of us will post on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'll get hit up. Dexter, can I come out and okay? Do you know your firearm fundamentals? I've had people tell me they want to come out, they don't know how to break their pistol down. No, you're not the kind of person I want to come out to this event. Because this is an event for really intermediate to advanced shooters, okay? if you can't do the basics, if you don't know the basics, you're still a beginner in my mind. Now that may sound kind of firearm bourgeois, but in my mindset, that's to keep everybody safe, because we started about a month ago. Now I'm doing something every month, and it's a group of select people I invite every month out.
But you raise a very good point though, Dexter, because a lot of those who might be on this call, you know, they may see the videos on YouTube and say, you know what, hey, that looks real sexy. You know, they're running and gunning, or they see, you know, Keanu Reeves, or
Halle Berry.
shooting,
It's
you know,
very,
different targets.
very fanciful.
It looks like fun,
Right.
right? But you may not be at that level yet, right? So it's very important that we take the necessary steps and not go from 0 to 100, right? Without gradually getting to a point where you can shoot and move, because it's very difficult to shoot and move. The videos make it seem easy when someone's doing it properly, but you know, they don't see all the reps that went into it. They don't see the isolation drills. They don't see the work that went into getting so smooth. They just see the end product and they think it's sexy, right? But it's very difficult to shoot and move and have awareness of your target and your firearm and not be unsafe with it, right? So, you know, like Dexter said, he's not trying to you know, be condescending, but just trying to say that you have to have taken these steps first in order to be able to go out there and run a course like that.
Absolutely.
And don't do that to yourself, right? Allow yourself the opportunity to learn and grow the right way.
It's like math. It's like showing your work in math, right? Where your teacher keeps saying you're going to have automatic 10 points if you don't show your work. Why do I have to show my work? Right? Well, because you need to show that you actually absorbed the information, you learned it, you applied it, right, to that problem to then get your results, right? And if you're missing everything in between there, right, and you want to jump to just straight the result, right, you're missing the whole point. You're missing that growing process.
Is it hard? Is it hard? Because it really pushes you, doesn't it? It forces people who have experience to stay humble.
Right.
To stay humble.
And you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. To become a great shooter, you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable with your own shooting circumstances.
Correct.
You know, my Kennedy, she ran it the tactical games, and she had a broken arm, but she had to figure out how to compensate, because she's watching people like Cassandra them run, and she's like, oh no, like I'm doing this, like I am doing this because I see the women out here, they doing it, and Cassandra them represented for the women. They represent it, but Kennedy was like, no, I'm running this. And she had to figure it out. She did good. It made her feel great to be able to run with them, because, you know, women representing.
And how old is she?
We need more.
How old is Kennedy?
Kennedy, well, all of them ran, but I think Kennedy was 12 at the time.
I want to be her. I wanted to be her when I grow up.
So do y'all have any final notes, any recommendations, anything that people, first time prospective gun owners, that they need to know?
Okay, I'll start. Just three things. One is don't allow anyone to rush you into making a decision, right? Excellent. You have to make a decision that you're comfortable with, and a decision that you can live with for yourself. Your decision and my decision are two different things. So that's the first thing. Second is, as Dr. Fred said, you must humble yourself in order to be able to learn and to develop yourself, right? When you know you don't know, it's a very good place to be. It's a very, very good place to be, because then you can do something about it, right? And then the third is have fun, right? Shooting is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's good hand-eye coordination, right? Just absorb yourself in all the benefits that you can derive from being proficient with a firearm, and also, you know, that ultimate benefit of being able to protect yourself and your family.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. What about you?
And I think with firearm ownership, people need to understand it's a very humbling it's a very humbling tool, because if you have it and you think you know everything about it, you know nothing. You know nothing. So if you have it, don't let it just sit there. You go get some training and go meet some good people, because that they're going to keep you, they're going to hold you accountable, and they're going to keep you responsible. And that's the one thing. Like, be humble. It's okay. We with Dexter have the technical games, so we go out there, or I go to trainings or whatever the case may be. You know, I don't mind sitting back and listening to other people's experience, because they may have more experiences than I do. You know, and the thing about it is, like I said, you gather from that. You have to be humble in the firearm community. There are no, that stuff you see on TV. There are no boss hogs in the firearm community. Everybody is humble.
Okay. What about you, Ms. Light?
I'm gonna piggyback on the have fun part.
Okay.
Because a lot of the women, they come in there and they're so nervous and tense, right? And that doesn't make for an enjoyable experience.
Right.
That makes it more difficult just gripping the gun, and you're already trying to be safe with the gun and think about all the steps that you have to take, right? When you're first starting, just stay safe, right? But have fun, right? Enjoy the process, enjoy learning a new skill, enjoy learning how to use a new tool, enjoy the people around you, right? That's what I did, right? I tried to absorb as much information as possible from the people around me, right? I got their experiences. How did they start? Why did they start? You know, where do they want to be, right? And then I moved towards the people where they say, I want to become a better shooter, right? And you go with those people, and you meet up with those people, and you get yourself a range buddy, right? That's another thing I encourage as well, right? You know, you take the training class, and there's another person in the class that, you know, has a similar take on weapons, or even someone that may have been shooting for years, right? Range buddy, perfect, right? That's another way for you to challenge yourself, and that's another way for them to challenge themselves, right? To make sure that they are actually understanding and applying and can actually teach another person, right? I'm big on the teaching part of it, right? And passing on the knowledge that you've gotten onto the next person, right? Because that's how we reduce the negligent discharges, right? It's by education. That's the only way. So I wanted to add that. And also, don't rush the process.
Okay.
Right? Because it is a process, and not everyone's process is the same. You know, I am someone that jumps in head first 100%. You know, I give it my all, you know, in the very beginning. So for me, it was a very reduced amount of time for me to go from very beginner shooter to, you know, competition or what, you know, or whatever. Right. But I put in a lot of time and sweat and energy into that. I was at the range 2-3 times a day, tactical games, courses, you know, training with other instructors, going to NAGA events, instructing other ladies. It wasn't, you know, it was a whole process in that. And that's what I tried to explain to the ladies, is that you don't want to short yourself on that. Right? You want to give yourself that time. It could take you it took me 6 months to get my first gun. Okay. Right. And that was researching and trying to find the right gun for me and getting everyone's input, right? That's okay. It might take you that long. You could buy it, you know, the first day. I wouldn't recommend that, but that could be your process. Right? Definitely just you know, if other people around you, for anyone that is watching and they're newer to guns, may have never had a training course, anything like that, right? Do your research on the classes that you're taking. You know, get some reviews on it if you can. If you know another person that's taking the class, or know another person that's in the firearms industry, get their feedback as well of getting into the firearms industry. Some things that you can do to maybe alleviate some anxiety that you may have before you even get there, right? Because a lot of it's just like, it's a built up anxiety about things that they're unfamiliar with. Right? But once they learn about it and kind of alleviate those fears, then the fun starts, right? and then you catch the bug, and then it's just you're hanging out with your friends, right? So I'll just leave it with that.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. What about you, Mr. Porter or Mr. Tactical Snowflake? Unmute yourself. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
That's
Don't be
why
afraid.
you're about Springfield right there. That's why you
That's that XD for you.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, just dumb people. So ask as many questions as you want. Repeat the question, because that's going to keep you safe.
My goodness, I can't. So many times I've been learning a new concept when it comes to shooting, where I just had to just go over it over and over and over and over before it clicked. It doesn't always click the first time. Sometimes you're sitting there and you say, man, I don't know what you just said. It sounds great and I want to do it one day, but I have no idea what you just said. So I'm gonna need you to break it down for me, right? And if they're an instructor and they really want you to learn that concept, they will break it down for you as much as possible. Or they'll find someone that can, or they'll find a YouTube video. That's another thing we didn't really mention, was YouTube being a great source for finding information.
Okay.
Now you do want to be careful that you're not finding some guy in his backyard just making random YouTube videos.
There are so many of those. There's so many of those.
Right. But using YouTube videos so that you can kind of absorb that experience and get some of that information, up front. And reviews on guns and holsters and things like that.
Awesome. Well, I feel like I want to get a gun now.
All right, there you go.
Right. And take some classes.
I think you're sitting next to somebody who can help you.
Yeah, no, I know.
From what I heard.
But can I say something though? The conversations that we've had, I wanted you to have these guys on.
Yeah.
We may not communicate the same way, but was it the same content?
Yes, of course, absolutely the same content. You all approach the same topic from a different vantage point, but I think that that's important for people, especially those who are brand new into owning a gun, wanting to take, tactical self-defense classes, gun safety, etc. It's important for them to be able to see that you can come to this space with a different mindset, but the outcome is going to be essentially the same.
Correct. And there are tens,
it is the same.
and there are tens of thousands of us. So it's not, it's not just us four here in the tiles that you see right here, or 5 of us here in the tiles. There are tens of thousands of us. So this is it. We need to change the narrative. We need to take ownership of our human right to self-defense, and also take advantage of the shooting sports as well, because there's a lot of benefit that comes from the shooting sports. So let's get out there and create this normal environment where we see a man, a woman, and a child that's African American with a gun, and we're safe and proficient with it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that's a lovely place to end. Thank you so much, Mr. Mapp, for that. All right, go ahead and give it up one time. I'm feeling it. Yes! Thank you all so much. This has been absolutely invigorating for me. The whole day just has been incredible. And again, thank you to each of you for being here on Community Conversations, a call to action for this specific topic on Juneteenth. If you all can just end really quickly with either your social media handles or any websites that you want to leave for the audience so they can come and find more information about your organization's services and things that you offer.
Okay. All right. So our national organization is the National African American Gun Association, www.naaga.co. Okay, it's not .com, it's .co, and that is our national organization. You can go on the website and look at chapters, and you'll see the NAGA chapters that are in your DMV area. And if you want to get an idea of our chapter, Cassandra and myself and Dexter are a part of here in Metro Atlanta, you can visit www.bassreevesgc.com, Bass Reeves Gun Club. So Bass Reeves was the first African-American U.S. Deputy Marshal in the United States, and he was very, very renowned with and proficient with firearms, both long guns and revolvers. And he had an outstanding law enforcement career, and is the figure, the historical figure that our chapter is named after. So you can visit our website, see the community that we have, look at some of the images in the gallery, and get a sense of what you can also participate and create with the chapters in your area as well.
Lovely, thank you. Ms. Light?
And I'll second the Bass Reeves website, as well as the National African American Gun Association website. As far as finding events, I also say that if you are interested in becoming part of the organization, is finding a way to become involved in the chapter. And that may be as simple as coming to the events. That may be you want to become an instructor, or just finding ways to be involved and to help with the organization. Or if there are any ladies that are on the call and are in Atlanta, we do offer a Ladies' Day event that we do once a month, and that's the second Sunday of every month. We've been doing some online because of Corona, but we're hoping to get back to the in-person. And there you can, join with other women that some varying degrees of experience, some very beginner, may have never picked up a gun, or just some trying to get back into firearms, and some that have been in firearms for quite a while. But we all get together and we talk about women's specific issues, concealed carry, home defense, having a defensive mindset. Colin also helps teach those, as well as our legal counsel, Nazita, who helped to teach the class. And we go on in the range, and you get an experience with a positive experience with the gun to take with you. So I definitely, encourage, coming to an event like that, or finding an organization where you can develop.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Technical Snowflake, where can they find you?
Well, as I always close out on my Instagram feed, this is Mr. Tactical Snowflake. And as always, may God give you good aim when you shoot. Proud member of the National African American Gun Association.
Awesome, thank you. What about you, Dr. Pressure?
You can find us on The Survivor Sisters on Facebook and YouTube, and Survivor Sister 3 on Instagram.
Okay.
So, and like I said, we support all initiatives to the gun community, because my girls look up to all those people in NAGA, all those people in the gun clubs around the community, so yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here once again. Thank you everybody who tuned in, and until next time, y'all stay beautiful, stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, take care now.
You too, thank you.